Yoon Harun's hands wouldn't stop trembling. Not from nerves, not quite. The cold had settled into her fingers as if her blood had turned to frost. Please don't move, the stylist said softly, but her reflection didn't look like a bride. It looked like someone performing one. She could see her father pacing through the frosted glass. He wore a rented suit. It didn't quite fit. You really do look like your mother, he murmured. She would have cried today. She smiled. Harun could see the guests inside. Rows of pale faces, some smiling politely, others checking their watches. White flowers lined the aisle like frost on a grave. Her heels made soft clicks on the marble floor. The guests were perfectly silent. Not a single cough, not a whispered compliment, just cold eyes watching a performance. She looked at his profile. Sharp, beautiful, impassive. She'd never stood this close to him before, and still, he felt impossibly far away. The officiant cleared his throat, voice low and formal as it echoed beneath the dome. Today we gather to witness the union of CHA Minute J and Yoon Harun, joined in marriage under the laws of family and society. There will be no exchange of personal vows today, the officiant continued, flipping the page of a ceremonial binder. Harun approached the table first. Her name was already printed in looping script above a signature line. She picked up the pen. It felt heavy, cold. She hesitated only for a breath, then signed. Minute J stepped forward. He didn't look at her. His signature was fast, a single practiced motion. He placed the pen down gently but precisely, like he was executing a business deal. Harun didn't flinch. She just folded her hands in front of her and looked straight ahead. The officiant gave a thin smile. You are now husband and wife under the authority of the court and the will of your families. Congratulations. More applause. Cameras flashed. Minute J nodded once, barely acknowledging the words. Harun bowed politely to the audience. The ceremony was nearly over, but she kept her posture perfect, her chin tilted in practiced elegance. Some stared openly at her, scanning the details, her dress, her posture, her smile like folded paper. And then she saw her daughter, woman in a scarlet red dress, seated alone near the back. The woman tilted her head slightly, gaze still fixed forward, like watching the final scene of a play she'd already seen 100 times. Minute J didn't look at her, not directly, but Harun noticed the shift in his jaw, the way he adjusted his sleeve as if aware of eyes boring into him. Who was she? Before Harun could think further, a flashbulb snapped her back. A photographer stepped forward, motioning them into place for the ceremonial photo. She turned, her bouquet held gently against her stomach, and stood beside her new husband. The red-dressed woman didn't clap. She just crossed one leg over the other, smirking slightly, like she knew something the bride didn't. It had started in a silent office that smelled of pine, leather, and power. The glass walls overlooked the skyline of Seoul, and Chairman CHA sat behind a vast black desk like a judge presiding over a quiet execution. Across from him, Yoon Gwang-ho, Harun's father, bowed deeply, his hands trembling as he placed the loan documents on the desk. He said, voice barely above a whisper, I'll sell the apartment. Just give me more time. Chairman CHA didn't even look at the papers. You've had time, he said. Minute J stood nearby, silent, hands in his pockets. One other solution, the chairman CHA said. He leaned back in his chair. Your daughter, steepling his fingers. Gwang Ho looked up sharply. Harun, he said, voice cracking. She's quiet, presentable, educated, and more importantly, the chairman said, she'll keep her mouth shut. Minute J spoke, his voice dry. I told you, I'm not marrying a stranger. And I told you, chairman CHA snapped, eyes flashing. You are not marrying that designer. This is your family, not a romance novel. A long silence fell. Gwang Ho's head dropped again. I'll talk to her, he whispered. Later that night, in their tiny apartment above the greenhouse, Harun sat in silence while her father explained everything. The loans, the risk, the offer. I'll refuse, she said quietly. Her father flinched. If you do, we'll lose the shop. I'll go to prison. She looked at him then, at his bent back, his hands, scarred from years of cutting stems, his face, crumbling. Does he want to marry me? She asked. No, her father said, but his family does. She folded her hands in her lap. The apartment was cold. She closed her eyes and nodded. Back in the wedding hall, Minute J barely moved as the photographer finished taking their portraits. Harun stood beside him, still smiling, still silent, just like she was chosen to be. The reception hall shimmered with crystal chandeliers and white floral centerpieces. Harun sat beside Minute J at the head table. She traced the symbol with her finger as guests offered toasts she could barely hear. Minute J hadn't spoken to her since the photo session. Every few minutes, he checked the time on his wristwatch, like he was waiting for something more important than his own wedding. She smiled when guests came to greet them. Minute J stood when required, bowed when expected. He said all the right things. Minute J excused himself. Harun watched him cross the hall, and then she saw her again, the woman in red. She was standing near one of the tall floral pillars, sipping champagne. Minute J stepped close to her. He leaned in and whispered something. Seo Yun didn't smile, but she looked satisfied. Her eyes flicked briefly toward Harun. Their gazes met for half a breath. Then Seo Yun looked away, like Harun was wallpaper. Minute Jae returned to his seat with a glass of whiskey in his hand. I think we should leave after this, he said quietly, without looking at her. She blinked. Of course, she said. The first dance was skipped.